Welcome to r/EntitledPeople, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have two great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, Karma Strikes Back. Entitled pilot faces the wrath of Mother Nature. The second story, The Day I Walked Out on My Tyrant Boss. The first story is Entitled Pilot Receives Karmic Justice from Mother Nature. So this all happened back in early August, and my state was in the final weeks of the monsoons. It seemed like Mother Nature had unleashed all her fury on my state for the grand finale. We had everything: flooding, lightning, severe wind damage, and even hail. I work at the local airport. Of course, everything happened on my day off, and I didn't find out how severely the airport got hit during the latest storm until I got back the next day. I was sitting in my house playing some Crossout while the storm raged outside. At least until the storm knocked out my internet. So I grabbed a cup of my sweet tea and sat on my porch and watched everything get pelted by the hail. I even scooped up some hail to put in my drink because I thought it'd be funny to ice my tea with hail. As I was sitting there watching the storm, I looked out towards the airport and I thought, well, tomorrow's gonna be a cluster F. It was a cluster F. As soon as I clocked in the next day, my boss had everybody rushing around to clean up the mess. It looked like a tornado ripped through the airport. There was debris everywhere. Several planes had hail damage and the terminal had hail damage. The pump controls on our trucks were damaged. And to top it all off, lightning struck the prior day and took out the Wi-Fi, which means that both the payment system in our office and the payment system on the AVGAS self-serve were down, and the pump controls on the main fuel storage weren't working. We were busy trying to repair what we could and get important systems up and running. We went into our office to discuss what wasn't damaged, and our meeting was abruptly interrupted by the loudest "Ah!" immediately followed by lots of cursing. That voice, that horrible voice, it could only be one person, Pilot D. In case you haven't read my previous story about this guy, put simply, he's an a-hole. He isn't happy until everyone around him is miserable. You know how some animals can supposedly smell fear? Well, this guy is the same way, only with happiness instead. He even tried to pick a fight with one of my coworkers and threatened to get him fired a few days prior to this incident, just to make him miserable. All things considered, I'd be surprised if Pilot D isn't a Reddit mod. Anyways, back to the story. One coworker runs out of the office to find out what caused the screaming, and a minute later comes stumbling back into the terminal laughing so hard he almost peed himself. We ask him what's so funny, and between his laughter, this coworker just says, "It's the D-head." One by one, the rest of us go outside and come back inside laughing our A's off. The thing about Pilot D is that he rents a hangar on the airfield where he has a workshop, office, and of course his plane. Normally everything would be protected from the storm because it's in the hangar. However, it seemed that this hangar and only this hangar had both the skylight and roof fan get blown out by the storm. The broken fan and broken skylight fell on his plane, which caused some damage. But the two new openings in the hangar roof allowed the storm to blow into the hangar, which showered the plane with hail and whatever debris the storm picked up, which of course caused even more damage. That poor plane. As if that wasn't enough, the storm blowing into the hangar caused every loose object to get blown around the hangar and make a huge mess. The hangar looked completely ransacked. While Pilot D was busy cleaning his hangar and having his tantrum, me and my coworkers were in our office laughing at his misfortune. Does that make us a-holes? Yes, it does. The second story is, I finally snapped after the evil boss screamed in my face. Before taking the job, I had health issues that left me struggling for money. I was vulnerable and my roommate helped me find a part-time job at a retail store. I took it because the other jobs were taking too long. I couldn't afford to keep looking. I did an okay job, but always made sure to show up and always was clean and presentable to work. I made sure not to go above and beyond. I didn't rush myself. I made sure to not catch on to stuff too quick. I was quiet, kept to myself, and only made small, friendly talk. No one knew much about me or my personal life, just how it was supposed to be. I actually really started to like my coworkers, and they all really liked me. Work started to become overall on the enjoyable side, and some coworkers were especially entertaining. I needed the money, so I'd pick up extra hours when possible. It wasn't much, but I was able to still barely pay my bills. Then I was offered a promotion, better pay, different location, full-time hours, and some benefits. Seeing as how much I was still struggling to make ends meet, my situation put me in the position to have to accept it. I still dreamed of going back to selling things full-time on eBay, but I just simply didn't have enough extra money to get inventory, and I didn't have enough time to grow my store back to a livable income. So I took the promotion and met my new boss. We will call them the HM, aka the Heat Miser. If you've seen A Year Without a Santa Claus, this person looks and acted just like the Heat Miser. She was too much. At first, the HM and new job seemed doable. The HM seemed especially friendly and overly happy for my arrival. The HM trained me to work according to her standards. The second week, she showed me more, and I immediately became concerned at how lax her standards were. They were not following anything that we were supposed to do, and her standards were things that could get me in trouble. I told her I was hesitant and that I would be trying to do things up to the real standards. Very quickly, I started coming into work and noticed that there were messes left, things not done, and safety issues left for me to handle. I'd contact her to let her know this was happening and that I needed to spend extra time fixing them to have a store that we could safely have customers in. I realized it was her and noticed that whenever she was working, she was always sitting on her bum, scrolling on her phone, and talking to her friends and husband. I would go to the HM with questions or to ask that I was doing things correctly, and to just get feedback on my projects. She never lifted a finger and never gave me training or coaching like she was supposed to. Every time the HM would act bothered and dismiss me, saying it's fine, just do whatever. The messes started to get worse. The HM got lazier by the day and grumpier. She had a coworker she loved to pick on and would frequently yell at. The coworker was disabled and didn't understand everything and struggled to do their tasks respectfully. The HM began trash-talking him and then would take advantage of him, making him pick up all of her slack. Then she'd flip out on him even when he didn't do anything wrong. She gave him dirty, hard jobs and then micromanaged him, and nitpicked his every move. He became more and more confused and upset, but would then work harder to try to win back her approval. This became a vicious cycle. The schedule changed then, and I hardly saw the HM. She'd touch base with me, but I maybe only saw her once a week and it was brief. The store started to dramatically improve under my reign. I had taken the coworker she bullied under my wing and I worked with him a lot. He was a wonderful person and a good employee, and we accomplished so much. The customers were loving the store and loved to come in and see us. Sales went up. I created a rapport then with all my coworkers, and looked out for them and became good buddies with all of them. I especially looked out for the younger ones, because they'd tell me how bad of situations they were in, and how they needed the job, and how the HM would be mean to them. More and more, my coworkers started requesting to only work when I was scheduled. It's not like we goofed off either. We got a ton done and we did a great job. One coworker actually complained to me that the HM wouldn't give them anything to do, and that they were bored during their shifts. Same coworker also said the HM was never working, always on personal calls, and goofing off, and that the HM would trash talk about the one coworker's disabilities to them and other employees. I advised them to report it. I also reported it. Nothing seemed to be done. I noticed then that I never was scheduled with that coworker again. Someone called out, and when I went to call them asking if they could cover, the HM said I was not allowed to ask them. The HM effectively separated us. The HM made an offhanded remark that she wanted me working alone, and hired a new coworker so I couldn't coach or train the disabled employee. She started firing anyone that enjoyed working with me the moment they got sick or had a car problem. Then a higher-up visited the store and told me that they wanted to further promote me, giving me the same job that the HM had. They proceeded to scold the HM, and I overheard that. The higher-up, though, praised me and was very happy with my work. It wasn't that I worked hard. I'm lazy AF, but I know how to make things look really good, and I was a master of delegating tasks and asking for help with things. That's how the store always looked good. I also stayed out of people's way, and generally gave the customers what they asked for, so no one complained about me. But the HM became sinister. She started getting more and more in trouble and started telling others how she was at risk for getting fired. I was her biggest threat. She started always being at work. Every single day she basically lived there, but still she never lifted a finger and did any actual work. She recruited other employees to cover up her mistakes, and took work and literally threw it away. She wouldn't let me stay home or go to the doctor when I was sick. She wouldn't let anyone call out. She'd try firing them. She started giving more and more hours to the two worst, meanest, laziest coworkers that were basically mini versions of her. Nothing was getting done. These minions of hers would give the customers awful times, were rude, lied to them, hassled them, and would even make degrading comments. When I finally got to witness it, I finally was able to create a write-up for the minion. The HM flipped out on me and defended the minion. My coworker, who had just about the same authority and similar position as me, said the minion needed to be written up. They'd get multiple complaints and the minion was frequently rude and didn't listen to them. I started wanting to quit then. I made an escape plan. I cut back on expenses and started looking for someone as a roommate. Saving money was almost impossible, though. I am every changing schedule. I was always getting it changed last minute, being threatened to get fired if I couldn't be flexible, and when I'd report or call anyone else, I was ignored. The job left me so exhausted. It took all my time and energy. I would barely get a day off, even so it was just to sleep in, then run errands, pay bills, and try to do chores as my house kept getting messier as I never had energy to keep up. I became a wage slave. I struggled to find time to apply and couldn't get off for interviews. The ones I did go to didn't lead to getting hired. I felt trapped in retail hell. I needed time off. I lied and told the HM I had appointments that were related to my scary medical problems of the past. She huffed, but I said I can't show up this day and I already have coverage. She said okay, but then retaliated. She lied to me about my benefits and hassled me to use any. I had to call higher-ups to fight for them, while job hunting, while apartment hunting, while trying to save a buck. Even the customers all started saying I was being exploited and that I should take the HM job. They all hated her too. I compromised with myself and scheduled vacation time. She tried messing with that too. I had to keep watching her and making calls, fighting to use the benefits given to me. She lied about the days I had off and ended up calling me in then, changed around my schedule. At this point I had a place and roommate lined up. And I had a small inheritance that was coming. I knew I could finally have my chance to get out. I ended up going in on my one day off after she threatened me about the other days off. I covered for her and did the dirty work that day. We were in the midst of finishing up and had just started the cleanup phase. She decided to randomly show up to work and walked in. Something had fallen, and like I said, we had just started cleaning up. There was another mess we had just started on. I literally had a mop in my hand. Coworker has getting the rest of the supplies. That's when she stared at me, and before I could even greet her, she just screamed at me. Screamed about how the place was falling apart. After me and one other employee covered a 6-person job alone. After how him and me both came in on our day off. After we just finished the massive project, and we were cleaning up the things that happened, that weren't even our fault. She didn't ask. She didn't let me speak. She never let me or him explain. She just screamed at me and degraded me in front of him. I threw down the broom and just walked off. I went out to wash my hands quick. They were nasty from the tasks. And then I headed to grab my stuff and I heard her trash-talking me to all the other employees. I didn't think twice. My coworker appeared who I just did the project with and he was saying something but no one of it registered. I told him he wouldn't see me again and he also grabbed his stuff and we walked out. As I was walking out, I saw a glimpse of the HM one last time. She was sitting on her bum, now on the phone with her friend, and I heard her talking very loudly about how awful I am and how messy I made things and how I just let it be like that. I walked out, called HR, got paid out for everything. 3 more people quit then when I left. More people reached out to me, saying they heard nasty things from her about me and saying none of it sounded like me. They begged me to go back, to transfer locations, etc. After the sheer disrespect and exploitation for such low wages I could barely pay my bills on, I would honestly rather move back with parents or live out of my car than to deal with being a wage slave for an awful company that doesn't listen when you complain, that doesn't properly staff, that lies, steals, and covers up the actual theft of bosses, including the HM. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Have a good day.